Okay, so the equation of the line can be written in two different formats. It can be written in the slope y-intercept format, and also it can be written in the standard format. Okay, so there's two formats that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to learn how to go from the standard to the slope y-intercept format. Okay, so I'll talk more about these formats later, but let's go back and review some terminologies first. When I say the y-intercept, that's the point where the line crosses which axis? The y-axis, right? Remember that we talked about the Cartesian plane earlier on, right? And we talked about that this is my y and this is my x-axis, right? So whenever I graph a line, whenever I have a line, this point right here is the y-intercept. Okay? So it's when the line crosses the y-axis. Now, if I'm talking about the x-intercept, so that's where the line is crossing the x-axis, right? So this is the x-intercept, okay? Now, if you are given an equation, right, an equation of a line, and then they're asking you to solve for the y-intercept, you have to set what to what?
X.
You have to set x to what? You have to put x equals 0. So you're going to have to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. Okay? So anytime I'm looking for the y-intercept, I have to set x to 0, right? So I plug in 0 for x and I solve for y. Now if I'm calculating the x-intercept, I set y to 0 and solve for x. Okay? The reason for that is, can I have your attention for a minute here? For the y-intercept, the point is going to be whatever that value is, right? Sorry. The point is going to be, what's the x value for that point? No, the x, not the y. What's the x value? 0. And the y value, if you want, is going to be -1, right? So anytime that line is going to intersect the y-axis, any point on the y-axis is going to have 0 as x, right? So if I'm looking at the y-axis, if I look at this point, that's going to be 0, 1, right? If I look at this point, that's going to be 0, 2. If I look at this point, that's going to be 0, -1, right? So any point on the y-axis is going to have 0 for its x value. You understand that? So that's why, in order for me to solve for the y-intercept, I set the x equal to 0. Okay? Now, on the other hand, if I am looking for the x-intercept, any point on the x-axis, so that's going to be -1, 0, right? That's going to be 1, 0. That's going to be 2, 0. So you see, any point on the x-axis, it's going to have a y value of 0, right? So if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I set y equal to 0 and solve for x. Are you guys okay with this? All right. Now, the question is asking you find the x and y intercept of a line represented by the equation y equal -2/3x minus 4. So, to solve for the y-intercept, what do I do? Plug in 0 for x. Okay? So to find the y-intercept, I just plug in 0 for x. Negative 2 over 3 times 0 is? 0, right? Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and I have left negative 4. So that's going to be y equals negative 4. So the y-intercept is negative 4. Now if I want to find the x-intercept, what do I have to do? If I want to find the x-intercept, what do I have to do?
Put the value y0.
So I'm going to replace y with a 0. And I have to solve for x. So in this case, it's going to require more work. Okay? So this is where I want your attention right now. So to isolate for x, what do I have to do first?
Take minus 4 other side.
Take negative 4 to the other side. What does it become?
4 plus.
Becomes positive 4. Remember? Isolation. What we learned earlier in the semester. So bring this over, it becomes 4. What do I want to get rid of next?
Minus 2 over 3, you have to look at other side.
What do you, if you want to bring it to the other side, what will happen?
It will divide.
So you want to divide it by. Okay, but if I want to bring it over step by step, how can I do that? Bring the 3 over, what does it become? You're timesing it, that's right. Right? So because that's a division, you are right, Harry, that's right, what you just said, that you divide by negative 2 over 3, but I'm going to just teach you a little bit step by step. Okay? So if I bring the division by 3 over, it becomes multiplication by 3, because the opposite of division is multiplication. So that's going to be 4 times 3. So that's 12 equals negative 2x. Now how do I get rid of that negative 2?
Divide by 2.
Divide by negative 2. Right? So I divide by negative 2 because I have multiplication here. So it's going back to what we learned last chapter. So 12 divided by negative 2. So the answer is negative 6. So the x-intercept is negative 6. Why is this useful? Why is it useful to know the x-intercept and the y-intercept? Yeah, please.
To graph it, like when you're putting it on the graph, you can like visually see.
That's right. Knowing the x-intercept and the y-intercept, that means I know 2 points.
Yes.
And to graph a line, I only need 2 points, and I can draw a straight line, right? So if I show you here, so the y-intercept was negative 4, okay? So that'll be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So that's my y-intercept. And the x-intercept is negative 6. So that's my other point. So you see that I can draw a line between these two, right? So I can, so this is, so this equation right here is, the line of it is this, okay? So by finding the 2 points, the x-intercept and the y-intercept, I can draw the line. Do you guys understand that?
Sorry, that's not
Okay. Now, basically what we learned so far is just finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay? Now we're going to learn how to convert between the standard form and the slope y-intercept form. Okay? When I say slope y-intercept form, I want you to think about the equation that looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? This is called slope y-intercept form. Not slope. There's an e after the b. Okay? So slope y-intercept form is to the form of y equals mx plus b. Why do we call it slope y-intercept form? Because m represents the slope and b represents the y-intercept. Huh? So slope, y-intercept. Okay? So m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And that's why we call it this way. And it's always written as y equal to, and then the slope times the x plus the y-intercept. So, if I'm looking at this equation, y equals 8x minus 9, what's my slope?
Oh, your slope.
8. 8. This is the slope. Okay? Remember, slope is multiplied by the x, so m is the slope, and this is the y-intercept. Okay? So if you're looking at the equation, whatever is with the x, that's the slope, just the number. How about the y-intercept? What is it? Negative 9. Okay? So I'm just basically looking at the equation and I'm finding the slope and the y-intercept. What will be the slope for the second one? Negative 3 over 4. How about the y-intercept?
2.
Now the question is, why is this slope y-intercept form important for us? Why do we have to learn different kinds of forms of a line? Okay? Why don't we stick with the standard form and don't worry about the y-intercept?
Because it gives you a different value, it gives you a different answer that you need to find.
It gives you something that you'll be able to find fast. That's right,
Oh.
from that form. I think that's what you're thinking. You're kind of relating to these two as well.
Well, every formula gives you a specific answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specific thing that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Excellent. So the advantage of slope y-intercept form is that it's easy to find the y-intercept. Right? I just have to look at it. I don't have to plug in anything. I just have to look at the equation and say my y-intercept is boom. Okay? So number one, it's easy to find the y-intercept. Number two, it's easy to graph. Okay? It's much easier to graph. So, I'm going to say easier to graph. And then we'll know why. So, in order for me to graph the slope y-intercept form, I have to first plot the y-intercept.
That's minus 8. Why is that?
So
210.
Then I'm gonna use the slope, right?
8.
And then to plot the next point.
Right.
Can you guys remind me of what does the slope represent? First thing that we learned in this unit. Steepness of the line. And what's the formula of the slope?
Rise over run.
Rise over run. Very important. Okay? So let's look at this example. The second example. Right? So I want to plot that one. I'm going to have to start at the y-intercept. Where's my y-intercept? Yes. So my y-intercept is at 2. So my y-intercept is at 2. What does my slope tell me? What's my rise? What's my run?
Rise is -3 and then is 4.
The rise is -3 and then the run is 4.
It goes
Down.
One goes 3 units down.
Yeah.
And the
4.
yes, run 4.
That's right.
But
So if I start from the y-intercept, I have to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. And I have to go over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would be where my next point is. So what I did is I went down 1, 2, 3. And then I went over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I located my second point. And now I can graph my line. Okay? So start from the y-intercept, pause that, and then look at your slope and see what your slope is telling you and follow that. Okay? Are you guys okay with that? Okay. Let's look at the other equation. Where's my y-intercept for this? -9. So So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's my -9. Right? So this is my y-intercept. What does the slope tell me?
8.
Which way? So up 8 over what? 1. Because anything, any whole number has a denominator of 1. So that means from the y-intercept, I'm going to have to go up 8 and then over 1. Okay? And that will be my second point. So up 8 is going to end up, I'm going to end up right here at the -1. And then over 1, so that means my next point is going to be right here. See that? So I went up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over 1. And then I can graph the line between these two. I can always extend my line.
What is -1? I can't understand.
Because I went up 8, right?
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good.
Right?
That's the y-axis, and that's the x, right?
That's the y-axis, yeah.
From 8 point, we have to go to right hand side.
Yeah.
You have -1. Oh, why -1? Because we got 8 upon 1. Good.
That's right. So, what do you mean y minus 1? So, I went up 8.
Run is 1.
Yeah, run is 1. So I went over 1. Okay? So up 8 over 1. Okay? Are you guys okay with this? Yes? Okay. Now the standard form is written in the form of a y plus b x plus c equal to 0. So as you can see, in the standard form, everything is put to one side. Everything is crowded onto one side. The y, the x, and the number, constant. Okay? And then the other side is equal to 0. So I'm going to give you an example. So if I have y equals 3/4. So 2y plus 3x plus 5 equals to 0. Okay? That's a standard form. That's a line. That's an equation of a line, but it's in standard form, not in slope y intercept. Okay? The standard form is not useful at all, but they would give it to us sometimes. And we have to know how to convert from that standard form, the useless standard form, to the more useful slope y-intercept form. Okay? So we can change a standard form equation into slope y-intercept form by rearranging the equation to look like, what's the what slope y-intercept form? Y equals what?
Rise over 9.
Mx
Oh, mx plus b.
plus b. Okay? So I can change it from this to this by rearranging the form. We're going to look at an equation like that.
I mean, you can change the product form equation into slope y-intercept form by rearranging equation
Yeah.
to look like how you have written like this.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how. So this is the equation. Okay? You see that this is in standard form because all of the three terms are on one side. Are you guys okay with this?
Right.
Everything is to one side,
Okay.
and I have equal to 0. So it's
Okay.
similar to this.
Okay.
Right? Now, I want it to look like this, where y is by itself, and everything else is on the other side. Okay? So where's my y term here? Where's my y term here? 2y, right? So 2y is my y term. So I'm going to have to leave this here, and then move everything else to the other side. That's my first step. Okay?
You do
I want to leave y here, and then move everything else to the other side of the equality. Are you guys okay with that?
Please good for us.
That comes
Please
down-
do it. The first step you do it practically.
that's here.
So, if I leave 2y here, and then I move the 3x over, what does it become?
Negative 3s.
Negative 3. Yeah, 6 also we have to carry the
I have to also bring the negative 6 over. What does it become?
Plus 6. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna stop,
Okay.
and I want you to look at this. You see, all what I did is I moved the 3x term, and I moved the constant to the other side of the equation, and I changed their sign. That's all what I did. Are we okay with that so far?
No problem.
Everyone? Okay, now, I want y by itself. I don't want anything else
Other than y.
with that y.
Yes.
So I have a 2 here. I want to get rid of that 2.
Yes.
What's the opposite of, what's happening between the 2 and the y?
It's multiplication.
So if I want to bring that 2 over, what does it become?
Division.
Division. So I'm going to have to divide both terms
minus 3x plus
I'm gonna have to divide both terms by 2 because I wanna get rid of that 2. Okay? So you see here that negative 3 over 2x, right? I can't simplify that. It's negative 3 over 2. I can't simplify it. I can't divide negative 3 over 2. How about the 6 over 2? It becomes a 3. I can simplify it. So this is the same thing as writing negative 3 over 2x plus 3. So, standard form, slope
Yes.
y-intercept form.
Yes. Good.
All what I did is I rearranged my formula. I just moved things around to make it look like this.
Yes.
Now, can you guys tell me what is the slope here?
Minus 3
Negative
upon,
3 over
upon
2. Okay, negative 3 over 2. That's your slope.
Yes. And
What's the y-intercept?
3.
Are we okay with that? Okay. So this is called rearranging the formula, okay, to go from standard form to vertex form. Okay. I have included an example for you guys here on that wall. So that example is the same, similar to this example, where I had to rearrange from standard to slope y-intercept form. Okay?
Now we'll plot it.